if you're building any kind of a serious app, chances are you will need to interact with third-party services, whether it is getting the weather report or the price of Bitcoin, or even processing a video file. You simply will not be able to do it without taking advantage of third-party API. And while there are services that provide this functionality, they do come with their own disadvantages. The first is the price. If you're going to be using a service that provides some kind of a third-party functionality, you will have to pay for it. And depending on how many times you use it, you will have to pay either a little or a lot. But most importantly, there are a ton of things these services cannot do for you, making your app design and development that much more complicated. But in today's video, I'm going to be showing you an amazing method where you can easily build your own backend that gives you unlimited APIs that can be used for absolutely anything, simple or complex. And the best part of it all is that it's absolutely free. Now, before we get started, as always, all the resources that I mentioned in today's video are going to be available to view and or clone from my Patreon page. And you can learn more about our amazing Patreon community using the link in the description below the video. And so here I am logged into FlutterFlow, which is my no-code builder of choice. It's an amazing no-code builder, very, very powerful, allowing you to build just about any kind of app that you want. And so here I have a UI for a very, very simple app. And in this case, a user is going to be uploading a video file, and it's going to do something to that video file. So maybe it's going to, give you back the duration of that video file. Maybe it's going to make it black and white, or maybe it's going to do some more complex custom processing to that video file and get you back the result, a new video file with all the processing done already. And so typically what you're going to be doing is you're going to have your upload here, and then when the person clicks this button, in this case, get the duration, you're going to execute an API call. And typically you're going to create this backend API processing using a tool such as make.com, or as it used to be known as Integromat. Another really popular tool that I talked a lot about on this channel is called N8N. It's also an amazing tool. But let's say you're using make.com and you want to do some kind of video processing. Well, you're going to click here and you're going to search through all of these modules to see if there's a module that allows you to do video processing. So I'm going to type video, and I have a lot of different modules. So there's Vimeo, that's for uploading, there's all kinds of different modules. But let's say I want to do video processing. Okay, I can't find anything. I want to do maybe, make it black and white. I can't really find anything. And so I'm not really sure if there's, the right module to do what I wanted to do. There may be, but chances are, as you get more complex, as you need to do more complex things, you're not going to find the right module. And the same situation is with N8N. So here I can click on Add First Step, and I want to search for video, and N8N has even less modules than make.com. So if I type video, I don't see anything. If I type convert, all I see is an email marketing app, and I can't really find the right module to do my own video processing. And so now I'm stuck. Let's say I want to build a tool that does video processing. Okay, this tool is going to do some amazing things to your videos. You're going to upload videos, and maybe it's going to chop it up. Maybe it's going to remove the bad takes. Maybe it's going to, change the resolution. It's going to make it black and white. Whatever this tool is going to do, I can't figure out how to do it. And so now I'm beginning to think, can I really do it with FlutterFlow? Well, the solution to this problem is you got to create your own backend that's going to expose APIs, allowing you to do exactly what you want to do and much more. And so in today's video, I'm going to be showing you how you can create your own backend infrastructure and expose APIs, as many as you want, unlimited APIs if you want, and they will be able to do exactly what you tell them to do, anything from simple to very, very complex, and pretty much anything in between. And most importantly, you can build it for free, and you can host it and use it for absolutely free. Now, the first thing that you want to do is you want to go to railway.app. You want to load up this website, and this is an amazing tool that will allow you to build your very own backend, to do pretty much anything that you want. Now, you can create an account for absolutely free, and you can even use them. They give you a generous free plan. So chances are, unless your app goes viral, it becomes like a viral sensation and you make a ton of money, chances are you're not going to pay anything for hosting and using your app. So after you've created your free account, your page is going to look something like this. Now, as you can see, I've been using Railway for some time now. As you can see, I have several projects here, and I'm adding more projects all the time, testing various apps. I really, really love this tool. Now, the next thing that you want to do is you want to click the link in the description, and you want to use that custom template that I built for you guys that will allow you to build your very own custom backend. Now, as soon as you click the link to that template, you're going to be looking at a screen that looks something like this. Next thing you want to do is you want to click on Deploy Now. Now, over here, you need to specify the repository where your backend is going to be deployed to. So if you're using Railway, chances are you've probably logged in using your GitHub account. If you do not have a GitHub account, go over to github.com and create your free account. GitHub is also free, and we're going to be using GitHub as a place to store the code to our backend. And so here I'm going to specify backend over here, and I'm going to click on deploy. As soon as I do that, it starts to deploy my custom backend. So you're going to see a screen that looks something like this, where it's going to show you what's happening, right? So right now it's building our new custom backend. So you'll have to wait a few moments for this to finish. And now, as you can see, the deployment has finished and we've been given a URL. Now you can customize this by clicking on settings, scrolling down, and you have this URL here, and you can click here and you can actually edit it, right? So you can change this text to pretty much anything that you want, provided that it's not taken by someone else. Another thing that you can do is you can use a custom domain. So if you are looking to use this in production, maybe you want to build a business around it, something like a PaaS, platform as a service, you can go ahead, buy a domain, enter it here, and you're going to have a custom domain making your whole product, your own backend, look very, very professional. But I'm just going to leave it at this default domain here. Now, the next thing you want to do is you want to click on this URL. And when you do that, you're essentially sending the first request to your own custom backend. And as you can see, it says here homepage. And that is because when you go to the main page, it simply returns homepage. Now, one other thing that you can do is you can append /hello. If you do that, you should see hello. So right now, your custom backend has two API endpoints. One that says homepage, the other one that says hello. Of course, this is not enough for us to build a serious app. If you're building any kind of a serious app, it needs to have a usable API that does something valuable. And so next I want to show you how to create a very, very simple API that takes the URL of the video that we're going to provide, loads that video, calculates the duration of that video, and gives you back the length of the video in seconds, for instance. And so the question is, how exactly are we going to do it? Well, we are going to type it in plain English language, and it's going to create this API endpoint for us automatically. And we're going to be using it using GPT. So here I am inside of my GPT account, and I actually have a very long conversation that I've had where I was kind of tuning my prompts and trying to figure out the best way of doing it. And as a result, I have some very, very good prompts that I'm going to be sharing with you. But if you guys want my entire conversation just to see how I started, how I was tuning the prompts and things like that, I will share this entire conversation to my amazing Patreon supporters, and you'll be able to get to our amazing Patreon community using the link in the description below. So if I enter this prompt here, add a request handler that will take a video file URL and return the length of the video, if I click submit, ChatGPT is going to generate our custom API endpoint that we can start using right away. So here's our custom API endpoint that has been generated by ChatGPT. Now, the next thing we need to do is we need to click on copy code and we need to insert it into our app. Now, remember, when we were initially setting up our Railway template, we specified a GitHub repository. So you want to go back into your GitHub account. You want to find your repository. So here are my repositories here. And here's the backend repository that I specified when I was deploying that initial template. I'm going to click on this backend repository. And I'm going to find a file called app.py. I'm going to click on that file. And I'm going to click on this edit this file, okay? Now, to make things simple, what you want to do is you want to go all the way to the end of the file and you want to paste it there. Next, you're going to click on commit changes. Commit changes. Now, there's one more thing that you want to do. When ChatGPT generated this snippet, it told us that it was using this library. So we're going to copy this word here. We're going to go back into our GitHub. And this time, we're going to click on this Docker file here. We're going to click edit and we are going to paste the name at the end of this run command. So there's this run command here. We're just going to paste this library, commit changes. And as soon as you click that button that says commit changes, your backend is going to be redeployed automatically with these changes. And so if you go back into Railway and choose your project, you're going to see that it's deploying automatically. So anytime you make changes on GitHub by inserting new API endpoints, it's going to deploy automatically. And in this case, it finished deploying and it gave us that URL again. And so now we can click on this URL and you're going to be back on the home page. Now, if you go back to ChatGPT, just above your API endpoint, this code snippet, it gave us back a URL. Now, this is the actual API endpoint where you can send the URL of the video and you're going to get back the video length. Okay, so in order to test it out, in order to make sure that it works, I'm going to use an API tool that I use all the time called Rapid API. So I'm going to load this tool. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to paste the entire URL of my endpoint along with the endpoint that I was provided right here. It's always going to be in the same place. Next, I'm going to formulate my simple request here. So I have a very, very simple JSON request with just one element, URL. And here I have a very small movie file. This is actually an MP4 file, which is a movie format. And this is just a random movie that I found on the internet. So this is kind of what it looks like. So if you load this movie, this is kind of what it looks like. It looks like it's a low resolution cartoon of some sort. And as you can see, it's 30 seconds. Okay, we're going to take this URL. And so we're going to format it so that you have URL colon and then the actual URL of the file. And then we're going to execute this and we're going to wait for the result. And we got back the result. Video length is 30.8 seconds. So as you can see, we've just created a custom API to do exactly what we want. In this case, we just told it, create a custom API that gives us back the length of a video that we are sending in, okay? So now that we know this API works, we can use it with our FlutterFlow app. So here I am back inside of FlutterFlow, and what I have here in front of me is a very, very simple FlutterFlow app. All we have here is we have a placeholder that when you click on it, it uploads the file to Firebase. And when it uploads it to Firebase, with FlutterFlow, you get back the URL, you get back the link of the file. And we have here a button that says get duration. And when we click on this button, we are going to be executing this API call. Now, this API call accepts a body of the request that says URL and the URL here. So we can come here, we can actually test it. inside of FlutterFlow, and we get back video length 30.8 seconds. Now, while you're testing it, you want to go into recommended, and you want to capture this video length JSON path. So you're going to click on selected, go back to selected, and here you can just give it a name, duration, right? And the reason we need to do that is that we get back a JSON response and we need to capture it correctly. We need to format it. So in this case, we give it back duration. Next, you're going to go into call definition and you want to create a variable. And the variable is going to be for the URL. So we're going to call it URL. We're going to say string is list is false. We're going to click save. Next, we're going to go into body here. And instead of sending the same URL, we want to make it a variable so that whatever the URL that the user uploads it, whatever the URL we get back from Firebase storage is the URL that's going to be here. So we're going to delete that, drag and drop this URL placeholder here, click save, make sure everything is set up correctly. And now if you go into response and test, you can actually test it out with the URL as a variable. So I'm going to paste the URL here, click on test API, and we get back video length 30.8. So now it is working with the argument that's dynamic. So meaning that it's going to be supplied by the user while the app is running. So we're going to go back to the app, click on this button, open the action here, click here on this backend API call. And what we want to do is we want to set the variables. We only have one variable called URL. We're going to set it as the widget state uploaded file URL here. So once the file is uploaded, we get back the URL of its location in Firebase storage. So once we've uploaded the file, we have the URL, we're going to execute the request and we're going to get the result. And then once we get back the result from the API call, the duration, we are going to update this widget state with the duration. So we're going to come, click on duration, and that way we are updating a state variable that will automatically show the answer here. So let's go ahead and try this app real quick. Click on this app here, create a test environment, and see if it works. All right, so here's our app. We have here the placeholder that you click on in order to upload a video. So I'm going to click on this placeholder here. I'm going to select this video file here. And as you can see, this has changed, and that is because the file has uploaded. I have some logic in the app that changes this widget based on whether the file has uploaded and we've received back the URL in the Firebase storage, okay? And now all we need to do is click on duration. We're going to execute that API call, and we get back 30.8 seconds, which is exactly the right length of the video. Now, if you click again, you will see that this is very, very fast. It's extremely fast, and it's a lot faster than I've experienced compared to both Make.com as well as N8N. Now, before I show you a couple of more complex examples, let me explain to you exactly what is happening here, okay? So here we have a diagram of what exactly is going on here. So we have a user. The user is interacting with our app, right? In this case, this is a FlutterFlow app, and the FlutterFlow app is executing API calls, right? So we have this APIs here, third-party services, and typically these APIs are going to be done either, using Make.com or N8N or some of the other tools. But in our case, we are using custom APIs that are hosted by us, that are created by us. And all of this is thanks to a very, very powerful tool called Docker. Now, you may have heard about Docker before. If not, essentially what a Docker container is, it's like a mini computer. It's like a little computer that you host somewhere that's isolated from anything else. And the beautiful thing about it is that it's very, very powerful. It's a lot more powerful than any of the APIs that either Make.com or N8N can provide to you. Because when you have your own container, when you have your own mini computer, you can do some very, very powerful things, as you're going to see a little bit later in the video. More specifically, we can provide a video It's going to download the video, it's going to process it, it's going to do something to it, and we can specify exactly what we wanted to do with that video or an audio or pretty much anything else. By creating our own backend in this Docker container, we can create very, very powerful APIs that would be just a headache and outright almost impossible to do using any of these other tools. Okay, so now that you kind of understand what's happening here, let's go ahead and create a couple of more API endpoints that are going to be progressively more complex and more interesting. Now, let's say I want to do some processing to a video. Let's say in this case, I want to take a video and make it black and white, and then give us back the URL of the newly created black and white video. How would I do that? Well, it's the exact same process as was the case in the first example, where I asked it to create an API endpoint that gives us back the duration of the video. And so all I need to do is formulate the right prompt. So in this case, add a request handler that will take a video file URL and return the URL of the black and white version of the video. And it's generating our new API endpoint that's going to do just that. So as you can see, it called it black and white. Let's wait for this to finish. Okay, so now it's finished. We're going to click on copy code. We're going to go back to GitHub, click on this right here, click on this edit, go all the way down and paste it. Okay, so now we see we have a new API endpoint called /black_and_white. We're going to be using this to send our request. We're going to commit our changes, commit changes. And as soon as we do that, it's going to start the redeploy process. So we're going to go back to Railway, go to our dashboard here, click here. And as you can see, it's building a brand new version with that new endpoint baked in. So we're going to wait for this to finish. All right, now it's deploying. All right, so it just finished deployment of our new version of our backend with that latest API endpoint. So let's go ahead and test it out. So this homepage works, so it's running. We're going to go back to our Rapid API tool. And in this case, we're going to use that new endpoint that it generated. So this is what it's called right here. We're going to replace this here. The request is still the same. It's URL with that URL there. We're going to execute this and see what happens. All right, so it looks like it worked, and it gave us back a JSON response with a key here, key value pair, BW video URL. So we're going to copy this URL. This is this newly edited video file that's supposed to be black and white. Let's go ahead and test it out. I haven't seen it yet myself. All right, and there's the video. And as you can see, it's black and white, full screen. Same exact video, except it's black and white. And so essentially we gave a URL of the video, of the color video that we wanted to be converted into black and white. It downloaded onto its own Docker container. It processed it, and it gave us back the URL of the newly processed and hosted video right here. And as you can see, it's exactly the same video, except it's just black and white. This is the original video, and this is the processed video. It's the exact same video, except it's black and white. And so now that we see that this API endpoint is working, we can go back into FlutterFlow and we can integrate this newly implemented functionality with our app. So here I am back inside of FlutterFlow. And in this case, what we want to do is we want to show this new black and white video instead of an answer here. And so I'm going to click here. I'm going to add a new video widget here called Video Player. And this is going to be displaying that newly created black and white video. Next, we want to go into our API calls, and we want to change this API call to our new API call. So I'm going to copy this right here. The body remains the same. Response and test, we're going to specify the same URL here, paste it, test it out. It's going to take a little bit longer now because it needs to actually download and process the video. Well, it was very, very fast. Here's the result, BW video URL. You want to go into recommended, select it, come back out here. This is black, white, save. We can delete this old one because we're not using it. Now we want to configure the UI here, get duration, open it up. over here, it's no longer duration. It's going to be black, white. We get the URL, we set it to widget state, and then this thing loads it from widget state. We come in here, we go into our page state and state answer, except state answer is going to be a video URL now. So we're going to change our page state, come back over here, come back here. We're gonna say video. This is going to be a video path, confirm, come back over here, change whatever we need to do, add a field, video, set value, and we're gonna set it to action outputs. This JSON body, JSON path, and we're gonna say black and white, confirm. Let's go ahead and reload our app. All right, so here's our app. We have here the placeholder, and then we have the placeholder for the resulting video that's going to be generated, okay? So let's go ahead and upload the initial video here. This is the file, okay? So the video has been uploaded, and we got the URL. And now we're going to click on this button to execute our API. In this case, it's going to grab the video, convert it into its black and white form, and hopefully display it here. And as you can see, we have the black and white video, so you can play it, and there's the video. Now, in this next example, we're going to be doing something a little bit more complicated. So here you're looking at a clip from one of my videos, and this clip is 20 seconds long. And as you can see, in the first half or so of this clip, it's silent. So I'm thinking about something, maybe I forgot something, I'm trying to look something up, there's some silence. And that happens until about, the 8-second mark. And after that, I'm talking a little bit here and there, and then there's another silence. And so what I want to do is I want to trim this clip and remove the first 8 seconds of the content here, because I don't really need it. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an API endpoint that's going to remove X seconds from the front of this clip. And then we can specify how many seconds we want to remove, okay? And so here's our prompt. Add a request handler that will take a video file URL and return the URL of the original video with the first X seconds removed. And so let's see what kind of API endpoint it's going to generate for us. So let's go ahead and submit this. And so it's generating an endpoint. It's calling it trim_video, and it's expecting two parameters, the video URL and the trim seconds. So the URL and the seconds, okay? So we're going to wait for this to finish. Okay, it is done. We're going to copy this code. We're going to go back to our repository. Okay, we're going to go to this file. We're going to edit it right here. And then we're going to paste it as the last API endpoint here, okay? We're going to click on commit changes. And as soon as we do that, just as the case before, it's going to start redeploying this backend of ours, okay? So it's building it first. After it finishes building it, it's going to deploy it for us. So we're going to wait a few more moments here. Okay, so it finished building it and it finished deploying it, as you can see here, and we have this link again. So what you want to do now is you want to click on this link, and you should see this familiar home page. And this tells you that our backend is functioning just fine, okay? So the next thing that we want to do is we want to test whether that new API endpoint is doing exactly what we wanted it to do, basically trim X number of seconds from the beginning of the video clip, okay? And so what I'm going to do here right now is I'm going to export this 20-second clip, and I'm going to upload it online so that it's available via a URL. Okay, so here's our 20-second clip. It's online now, okay? And as you can see, there's like a silence for the first 8.5 seconds or so, okay? So we're gonna try to trim the first 8 seconds here by specifying the URL of this video, as well as the number 8, which means the first 8 seconds that we want to be trimmed out from the video. Okay, so I'm gonna copy this link right here. All right, so now I'm gonna go to Rapid API, and we're gonna construct our request. So here's the URL of the video. So the first thing we want to do is get the generated name of this API service here, and we want to append it at the end. The next thing we want to do is construct the request. It's going to be the URL, but there's also a seconds request. Okay, so we're going to come here, put seconds, and we're going to put 8. Okay, we're going to click on JSON to make sure it's all formatted properly. And looks like it is. And now we're going to execute this request. And hopefully it's going to get back to us with the URL of a new video without those first 8 seconds. Okay, so we're going to execute this request. And we get a response. It says here 200 OK, so everything is fine. There are no errors, nothing crashed. And we get a trimmed video URL. So we're going to copy this URL here. And hopefully it's without those first 8 seconds. So it should be around 12 seconds or so. Okay, we're going to view this video. And as you can see, this video is 12 seconds. And as soon as you start playing it, there's no silence. Like I'm talking right away. And that is because the first 8 seconds of the video were trimmed out. So now we know that this API service works. We can integrate it with our FlutterFlow NoCode app. So here I am back inside of FlutterFlow, and we are gonna try to integrate this new API service into this app. So first we're gonna come here. We're gonna remove this old request. We're gonna copy this new request. We're gonna add a new variable called seconds. This is going to be an integer. Click save. We're going to go to body and we're going to put seconds. We're going to drag and drop seconds here. Format it. Format this nicely. Double check. Okay, looks good. We're going to click save. We're going to test it out. Response and test. Paste this new video URL. This is my video of 20 seconds with the first 8 seconds of silence. We're going to paste this here. And we're going to say 8 seconds. Okay, now we're going to test our API call. And as you can see, it says here 200 success. We get back a trim video URL. Let's go ahead and test it out. See if it is correct. And there's the video, 12 seconds with no silences in the beginning. So now that we know this API service works and FlutterFlow is interacting perfectly with it, we can use it in our app. And so you want to click on recommended, click select here, go back. And you can delete this old one and then label this one. I'm just going to say answer. Click save. And now we can go back to our app and we can make sure that it works properly, right? And here we can rename the button, trim video, click on the button. You want to go to the action. You want to reconfigure it, right? Because it's no longer this. It's going to be answer. And we get back the URL. And you also want to set up the input for the number of seconds, okay? So we're going to go back here, and here we have a row. We're going to put an input, text field, and here we can put number of seconds, okay? Or just seconds. Something like this, input seconds. And now when we execute this call, this API call, we want to take into account not just the URL, but also the seconds, okay? So we're going to pick seconds. We're going to come here. This is going to be widget state, input seconds. And now we have 2 arguments. We have the URL and we have the seconds here as well. And so when this executes, it's going to get the result right here, this answer, and it's going to update the page state variable called video, okay? And this page state variable is defined here. So let's go ahead and run our app. All right, so here's the app, and let's go ahead and upload the video. Okay, the video has been uploaded. We're going to specify 8 seconds to trim. We're going to say trim video. And here's the video. And as you can see, it's 12 seconds. And you can play it, and it immediately starts with sound. So as you can see, the first 8 seconds of this video was trimmed. Now, obviously, you can take this as far as you want, but there's something important you guys need to understand here is that we are not simply executing some third-party APIs. We're actually creating a little app inside of a container that does some interesting things. So while you have some APIs that you can get this data, you can get that data, we're actually creating a little app, and based on that app, we're doing some kind of logic. So in this case, we are processing a video. You can also do things like remove silences, or you can do all kinds of interesting things. It's really up to your imagination. So with this method, you're building a true backend. First of all, you have unlimited APIs that you can execute, right? There's absolutely no limit. You want to have 10 API services, you can have 10. You want to have 20, you can have 20. You want to have 200, 2000. Sky is the limit. There's really no limit. It depends on your application. The second thing is that you can make them do some incredible things. You can make them do complex things. You can make them do simple things. You can make them process video, process audio, process text. You have a little container that can be used to pretty much do anything. So it's very, very powerful. And last but not least, you can have this for absolutely free. So you can get started with Railway's generous free plan. And unless your app becomes super viral, and in that case, you're going to be making a ton of money anyway, your backend is going to cost you almost nothing. That's the advantage of building your own backend. And like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, all the resources that we talked about in today's video are going to be available to view and or clone on our amazing Patreon community. And you can learn more about our incredible Patreon community. We really have an amazing community. There's some great people on there, using the link in the description below the video. And if you're serious about your no-code development, you're serious about making money with no-code, you are serious about, building apps, or maybe it's just a hobby for you, regardless, you definitely should check out our amazing Patreon community and consider becoming a member. Now, if you enjoyed this video, I have tons of other videos on very similar topics that you should definitely watch. And I'm going to link one of them right there for you to watch next.